Hello everybody, I'm here today with another Lightroom tutorial. This one's going to be on how I would fix a photo, and I'm going to try to talk a little bit about how I use the brush tool in Lightroom as well. So here we have a photo that I took of my son. My kids were swimming in the pool, and most of the pool was in the bright sun, and he moved over into the shallow area of the pool, and it was in the shade, and when I took this photo, it was underexposed. So I know right off the bat this photo is going to need more lightening than I'm going to be able to get away with in the basic panel, and the reason I know that is just from experience. So I'm going to click on the tone curve. I'm going to click over here on the dark button, and I'm going to drag it to the right, and I'm going to significantly lighten this photo, and I think that's probably about right. So I'm going to go back up to the basic panel, and I'm just going to work down like I do with all my other photos and work through the basic panel, starting here with white balance. And it's not going to get me perfect, so I'm going to make my adjustments just a little bit. I'm going to increase my blacks and my brightness. And then I'm going to increase my vibrance. And already with a couple of clicks, we've made a significant improvement to this photo. You know, this is within the realm of acceptability. So now I'm going to come over here and talk to you a little bit about how I would use the brush tool, because the last thing I want to do to this photo is I want to brighten up his face just a little bit. I sort of feel like it's just a little dull and it just needs a little bit of brightening. So the brush tool is up here. It's underneath the histogram. It's a brush with a bunch of dotted dots in a circle around the tip of the brush. And I use the brush tool whenever I want to make a change to a small part of a photo. Most of the other changes we make in Photoshop, or in Lightroom, excuse me, are global changes. But if I want to make a change to a specific part of the photo, I come over here to the brush tool, and the brush tool allows me to paint on a specific area. Any of these changes that are over here on the left: exposure, brightness, contrast, saturation. You can paint on color, whatever you want. So I know to lighten his face that I'm going to need to paint on a little bit of brightness, and I've adjusted the brightness here already to about 24. Usually when I'm brightening a face, that's about as much brightness as I need to do. And I'm going to come over here, and with my brush, and I know this in the screencast you can't see my brush exactly how it looks in Lightroom, but I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paint on his face. And you'll see that his face is lightening up. Now, there's some neat things about the brush tool in Lightroom. As long as I keep the center plus of my brush on his face and I have the auto mask feature checked over here, Lightroom will keep my brush stroke within the edges where I am painting. So I only want to adjust the brightness of his face. I don't want to adjust the brightness of the pool at all. So as long as I keep the center of my brush over his face, Lightroom is just going to know that, you know, I'm painting his face and not the back of the pool. So that's a really nice feature of the brush tool in Lightroom. You can also adjust the flow of the brush. You can adjust how soft or hard the brush is. I always leave the feather at 100 because I always want a soft brush. And my flow, I usually leave it about 100 too, though you can back it off if you want. And if you ever affect an area of your photo that you didn't want to, you can go back and erase part of your brush stroke off by clicking on the erase tool here. So I can see that his face has lightened quite a bit, and I like the effect that I've gotten there. One other thing that I'm going to do here is I notice that his face is a little bit red. The rest of the photo doesn't look overly red to me, but in the skin tones I notice that it's a teeny bit red. And this is something that I do if I ever want to color correct a skin tone too, as I add a little bit of color to the brush stroke. And here I am not going to add very much, or you can see if I do, he'll turn into a green monster, but I'm just going to add about 5% here to offset a little bit of that red. And I know that green offsets red. So here we have, I've made a pretty significant change to this photo in just a few minutes. and saved what I would consider have been a bad photo to begin with.